Michelle, thanks for joining me. I wanted to have you on because you have a video that has, I guess it's nearly 600,000 views, and that's a lot for little old friends of science. It's called No Climate Emergency, says 500 scientists to the UN. Can you tell us a bit about that one?
Yes, well, there was a petition sent to or a declaration sent to the UN in the same week that Greta was there and she made her How Dare You speech. And these 500 scientists from around the world, it began in Europe, that's why it's called the European Climate Declaration, but there are people from around the world who have joined in. And these 500 scientists basically say there's no climate emergency, which is the most important thing to know. And they also say that we should be less political with climate science and more scientific. And they're proposing that perhaps in 2020 there be some kind of a bilateral meeting of people who hold dissenting views on climate and with the UN and some of the other climate people there. So I think they're looking for a very constructive path. Anyway, this was issued. We sent their press release from our service to about 500 media outlets, mostly in Canada. And nobody picked up the story. So it was so frustrating. I thought, well, maybe I'll just do a video and read what's in the declaration. So I did that. And really, to our great surprise, it just completely took off. Like, we do have many videos that have maybe 10,000 views. The one on Ross McKittrick's letter got, I think, 36,000 views. So we do have some that get up there, but this one just really took off. So we now have, as you say, nearing 600,000 views. And obviously people are interested in knowing this. But the media, again, did not pick up the fact that this story went viral. So you have to realize that there's a campaign going on right now across the world with, I think, more than 300 media outlets who are signed up to this thing called Covering Climate Now. So their whole focus is to cover climate stories, and not one of them picked up this story. So we did another video called Censoring Climate Now, because that's obviously what they're doing. Anyway, that's...
Yeah. I found your Censoring Climate Now video very fascinating. And like you say, there are media outlets who actually, I mean, I've sort of made it my beat to cover issues of climate change from a skeptic's point of view. And when I say skeptic, I just don't think that taxes change the weather. And when everybody else starts living like we're in a climate emergency, maybe I'll start taking it seriously. But there are reporters who, like, that's their beat, climate change, and the world is going to end. That's their beat. And they completely ignored these 500 actual scientists, like hard scientists, their letter to the UN. They just completely pretended like it didn't exist. And if your beat is climate change and you're supposed to do straight journalism, well, then report the news.
Right. Well, I mean, you can see the policies, they say at the Toronto Star. They will not engage in any what they call false balance. Same with National Observer, which of course is run by Linda Solomon Wood, who is the sister of Joel Solomon, who is part of the Tides organization and has been running part of the tar sands campaign in Canada for years. So, you know, they have an agenda. You know, if you look at all these journalists who claim, you know, that they are dedicated to objectivity and accuracy and everything else, you know, when it comes to climate, that's simply not the case. And the first thing they do is they call you a denier instead of reviewing what your actual stance is. Because, and that there's a group called Climate Feedback, actually, which is certified by the Poynter Institute. The Poynter Institute is a journalistic institute in the United States. So they put together a group of climate scientists who would comment on different science stories. So of course they've shredded the story of the 500 scientists as if they're not climate scientists. What do they know? Well, most of the people on that list were studying climate before the commentators in the critique were born. So, because climate science as a métier is really since 2005. Before that, there was not such a discipline as climate science. It was earth scientists, atmospheric scientists, physicists, meteorologists, volcanologists, oceanographers. You know, it's an interdisciplinary field. So Pointer Institute, of course, is funded by groups like Tides.
Oh.
So, it's very nice to say, oh, well, look, we did a critique and we brought in the real climate scientists. If you look at who's on the list there, two of them are forest agronomists. What do they know about critiquing climate science? They are part of the interdisciplinary field, but that's really the point. It's interdisciplinary and it's very complex.
That's an excerpt from my weekly show, The Gun Show. It's an interview-based show that I do every Wednesday night, where I talk to conservative journalists, filmmakers, activists, even citizen newsmakers. However, the show is only available to our premium subscribers, but it's easy enough to subscribe. Just go to premium.rebelnews.com.